Hey everyone, Tula here with Key Wellness, and today I'm going to begin a new video series. And this series will be a little bit about my history, my personal background, and how it is I came to become so passionate about nature and where my interest in wellness and spiritual wellness comes from. So, going back to the very beginning, I grew up in the ghettos of New York City. My father was Puerto Rican, and he moved to New York not being able to even speak English. And so he got a rough start, and I came from a large family, so it was quite a few mouths to feed on a very limited income. When I was about 7 years old, I was old enough to be enrolled in a program called the Fresh Air Fund, which I believe is still active today, but it's a program that's designed to get inner city kids out of the city, introduce them to a healthier lifestyle, fresh air. And so at the age of 7, I was taken to Grand Central Station, put on a train with some kind of tag hanging around my neck, and then I was shipped off to parts unknown until I arrived at a train station in Massapequa, Long Island, and was greeted by this family of strangers I'd never met. And the woman was very hard to understand. Turns out that they had moved to Massapequa from France. And so the mother spoke with an extremely strong French accent. And the father of the family was the president of Guinness, the beer, and the Guinness Book of World Records. And so this is the family that was my host family for my very first tour with the Fresh Air Fund. Now, it was meant to be a 2-week tour, but as it turned out, this family took such a shine to me that they ended up contacting my parents and asking if I could stay for the entire summer. And so there began this relationship with this family that lasted for years. And later on, when their daughter grew up, she actually wrote a book about me. She was the personal assistant to Michael J. Fox. She lived and worked in Hollywood. And Bridget Ruloff wrote a book called The Fresh Air Kid. It was published by Penguin Publishers. It is now out of print, but it was the story of how this well-to-do family took in this impoverished inner city kid with the intent to make an impact on my life, with the intent to change my future, change my fate, if you will. And it ended up that I equally changed their family as well. And Bridget liked to remind me that her father, a very stoic man, the only one that could make him laugh and joke and loosen up the way he did was me. And it had to do with the fact that they expected that what would arrive at their door at the very first time would be this sullen, sad, inner city child, aware of her destiny, aware of her lack of opportunity. But instead, I was unflappable. Instead, I was full of energy, and I seemed oblivious, if not impervious, to the fate that lay before me. And as they had planned, that fate changed as a result of their impact on my life and vice versa. Now, I will say this of the impact that they had on my life. One of the biggest things that keeps inner city kids from changing their path, from what would seem like a set fate of an impoverished adulthood and continuing to repeat the pattern generation to generation. And that happens a lot. But there's one thing that can change that. And it's the thing that the Ruloffs gave to me. And it's this simple: vision. I had a vision of something beyond the ghetto. You see, if you grow up in the ghetto, you don't know there's another way to live. If you live a certain way, it never occurs to you that there's something else. It becomes your reality. Your reality permeates your thoughts and your feelings, and those thoughts and feelings then go on to create your reality. Well, if those thoughts and feelings were created based on poverty and lack and violence and filth, then that's what will permeate your thoughts and your feelings, And that's what you will manifest into your life. And this is how that vicious cycle continues. What happened with the Rulofs is they lived in a beautiful home and there was a nice yard. They went to the beach on a regular basis. She insisted on things that most people take for granted, like wholesome meals and hygiene, good hygienic practices. And this was all new to me, and it completely changed my perspective. Now, I would go back to the Bronx and I would be living in that environment, but in me began to develop a very strong central core of knowing that there is something else. And I'm here to tell you that if you put that into your own self, introduce yourself to another way of thinking, to the possibilities of what life could be, and you focus on those thoughts will permeate your feelings, they will permeate your actions, and they will change your destiny. Because I came from a very large family, and I'm the only one in my family that took the direction that I did. But I'll talk about that more in future videos. Also, in another future video, what I will address is how those thoughts and emotions shape your destiny. They create opportunity. I have heard so many people who started where I came from say, oh, I don't have those opportunities. Of course, I can't change my life. Nobody's giving me XYZ. And I'm going to say that you create that. What happens is that you are in control of your thoughts and you're in control of your emotions. And your thoughts and your emotions drive your behavior. If you firmly believe that there is something better for you and that you deserve it, and you lose the victim attitude, you lose that victim mentality, and instead you tell yourself, you believe firmly in your core that there is a better way, and that better way is for you. It's not about having a bad feeling. It's not about vengeance. It's not about anything other than, hey, I get so many trips around the sun and I'm going to make the best of it. Life is an adventure. Then what happens is that inner fire that's driving your thoughts and your emotions and your behaviors is like a beacon, and it draws opportunities to you. And it is those opportunities that you seize, and bit by bit, step by step, you take yourself from where you're at to where it is you want to be. But it is 100% completely up to you to have that vision, to have that core belief, to feel that you deserve it, and then to live in a way that is consistent with and conducive to whatever it is you dream of. And again, I will be doing a lot of videos on that, because this is how you change your life. It is your life and yours to do with what you will. But I digress, and I did say that in this video I would tell you about me. So to get back on topic, aside from just what I thought and I felt, even as a child, I put into practice some very important skills, which my father noticed was different than that of my siblings. And one main practice that I learned as a child was deferred gratification. And I will talk about this in more videos, that deferred gratification was something that I practiced. I seemed to know, even as a very young child, that there was something to learning to have the discipline to put off gratification. So, as an example, we would be paid when we got our report cards, and it was a lot for my dad to come up with the money to pay us, but he would give us, $1 for every A, 50 cents for a B, nothing for a C. He would take 50 cents if you got a D, and if you failed something, he'd take $1. And so I took this very seriously. This was one way I could make money. And so I worked diligently to have good report cards every time. And a couple of my siblings got very good grades too. But the difference was when we got our report cards and I got my money, I had my dad help me open a savings account at a bank. And I was so proud to keep my little savings book. And I wanted something. Well, it was a Tonka truck car carrier, to be quite honest. But at about the age of 7 or 8, I wanted this Tonka truck car carrier, big yellow car carrier with these plastic cars on the back. And I just really had to have one. And it was way more than I could afford to buy with, even if I got straight A's on one report card. And it was more than I could buy with 2 report cards. Fact is, I needed the money from 3 report cards. And so that's 3 grading periods. That's 3/4 of the school year. And while my siblings would get their money and they would rush off to the store and spend theirs, I waited. I waited almost an entire year to save up enough money to buy that car carrier. And the way I saw it is, this is something I want. And the day that I get that car carrier for myself, I will look back on the self today that's making the sacrifice, and I will love me. And that is exactly what I did. The day I bought that car carrier, my dad proudly drove me to, it was a Kmart, where I could buy it. And after I bought it, he said, well, how do you feel now that you finally got your car carrier? And I said, you know what? I love me. And I still love me to today, because deferred gratification is loving yourself enough and loving your future self that you know that even though you're great who you are today and where you are today, you're going to be even better, and you're worth it. You're worth waiting for. And so that's what deferred gratification is. And as I said, I'll talk about that some more. So let's fast forward then. And what I'm going to do next is talk about when I was getting ready to graduate from high school. So I continued to get really good grades, and I continued to perform well in school. And everybody thought, wow, with your grades and your intelligence and your discernment and ability to speak and to debate, you should become an attorney. You should go into politics. And everyone was so sure that I would. But I didn't want to. That wasn't my idea of a quality life. And by the time that I was 17 years old, I had learned that money, and I don't know where I learned this. I don't know how I knew this when I was 17, but I did know that money in and of itself had no value. Money was simply the currency for quality of life. In other words, this was just a medium. In and of itself, it had no value. You could light it on fire and burn it. You weren't losing a thing. But because of its understood value, because we've agreed as a society that that piece of paper has value, then the value in that piece of paper isn't so much the things you can get, but collectively, the quality. Why do we get things? So we can enjoy them. Well, why do we want to enjoy things? Because we want quality of life. So this is what I figured out by the time I was 17. Maybe money's not the only way to get quality of life. If the goal is to live a great life, if the goal is quality of life, maybe the only vehicle to get there is not money. And I had that figured out by the time I was 17. So the next thing is, what is your quality of life? What is quality of life to you? Not what your mother thinks, not what your father thinks, not what your spouse thinks. Marry someone who shares your vision. Your quality of life is what you define it. It's your life. And you're here to live it. And I believe you're here for a purpose. And so what it is you want is intricately tied to your life's purpose. And I knew for me that what I wanted was to get out of the city. Now, we moved out of the city when I was about 12, and I went to high school in the Pocono Mountains, and I was thrilled. All of my siblings hated that we left the city, but I loved it, and I loved that I could get out of the house. I didn't have to report where I was going. I could just go hike up a mountain. I could go sit by a lake. I could just be outdoors under a tree. And I knew that this was what I loved. This spoke to my soul. This set me free. I loved it. And I knew that had to be my life. So I said, no, I'm not going to become an attorney and a politician. I'm going to become a park ranger. I'm going to have a wilderness career. And so for this, I needed to get a college degree. I needed to get a degree in order to get a job in what I believed would be quality of life. And so in my next video, I will talk about how I took everything that I learned up to this date and manifested for myself an opportunity to get into college and pay for the college, and then to realize the career of my dreams. And I did ultimately manifest that career of my dreams and everything I wanted for my life. And you can too. And if you stay tuned and follow along with these videos, step by step, I will walk you through how you can change the course of your life. It is up to you, and you can live your best life ever. This is Tula, wishing you all the best, and we'll talk to you soon.